Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In Musume, I again track the stats for my opponents in the Open League Champions meeting, this time for Gemini. I did Taurus before. I'll include a link to the Taurus stats below, but I'm going to include the Taurus findings of round 2 along with the Gemini so that we can compare them together. We can look at the strength of the community and see if it's getting stronger or weaker or staying the same, or, looking at what kind of trends we can see. But first we have rating points, and then my cutoff point is the same as it was before, about 13,500, and that worked again here. What we can see in round 1, it's almost 50-50. This is much more balanced than it was for Taurus round 1, where it was like 1/3 over and then 2/3 under. Here it's about 50-50, so what that tells me is that trainers are getting more comfortable running Track Blazer Mont scenario so that they can get the stats and the skills that they want. And then we look at round 2 for both Gemini and Taurus, and then it's about 70-30, so it's going up. And then there was a discussion on the Discord about this, but just because a horse has a good rating doesn't necessarily mean it's good. They might have the wrong stats, or they might have the wrong skills, but I'm just one guy. I can only track so much. I can't assess every single opponent horse that I look at, so I have to draw a line somewhere, and this is where I draw it. But I think it can give us a broad idea of how strong the competition is. Next we have distance aptitude, so like mile A versus mile S, or medium if it's for Taurus. And then there was an interesting happening in Taurus. We saw fewer aces in round 2 with distance aptitude S, and I thought that was maybe a fluke, but we see it again here in Gemini. So I'm wondering if this means that like casual players with maybe weaker teams are prioritizing distance S too much. They're prioritizing it over things like the correct stats or the correct skills. Maybe that's what we're seeing here. And then like the round 2 trainers, they're more prioritizing the correct builds rather than something easy to understand, easy to swallow, like distance aptitude S. Okay, and then here we have a chart with only 2 graphs on it. This is because this is a track-specific stat that I wanted to look at. Different courses will have like different speed bonuses based on what other stats you have at certain levels. For this one in Gemini, it was stamina and guts at every increment of 300. And so stamina is also included, but I didn't track it because I figured everybody would have over 600 anyway, just so that they could finish the race. But guts, that was something that maybe people had to be more aware of or conscious of during training in order to hit 601 guts. And like me, for example, 2 of my 3 aces didn't have guts over 601. This is still something that you can kind of accidentally get if you don't know what you're doing, and so this is not a perfect like knowledge check like maybe Redshift was back in Taurus, but I think it's still a decent knowledge check. But yeah, we can see going from round 1 to round 2 that more trainers had guts 601 or higher. And then I was kind of casually looking at guts builds, kind of seeing how many there were. I didn't track it specifically, but I saw less than 10 true guts builds. And by that I mean like decks with maybe 2 guts cards or more. Alright, and then we have the scenario run that was done to train the aces in the Champions meeting. And pretty similar across the board. Moving into round 2, we see that fewer and fewer trainers run URA, and then a little bit fewer ran Unity as well. But as we shall see, Unity aces are still getting wins in Open League, so yeah. And then here we have a date trained. This is fascinating because if we look at the Gemini versus the Taurus, we see a lot more of quote-unquote old aces in Gemini. It's that kind of that lightest pink on the graph there in the middle, but yeah, over 40% had aces that were trained April or earlier, which was over a month ago. This was even before Aries started. And this is kind of hard to explain, like why? Why are so many trainers using so many horses that are so old? It could be that people are just phoning it in, they'll just use whatever they have lying around, maybe like early runs in Mont that didn't break A+, or maybe people are new to Open, but they don't want to train specifically for it, and so they're just, putting horses that they have to see how well they do, and then maybe decide later if they want to try hard or not. But yeah, this will definitely be something interesting to keep an eye on in future Champions meetings to see if this trend keeps up. Alright, and then we have wins, asterisks, comparing Unity URA trained aces against Mont aces. And then, like I explained in the Taurus video, the asterisk is to show that I'm not counting myself, because I won most of my matches, and so all of them would be make a new Trackblazer. I was just counting who came second to me. And yeah, vast majority were Mont, especially in round 2, but still a few wins from Unity or URA trained. And I lost actually to one Unity trained Nishino Flower. That was a shock. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking that like a rating of 13,500, which is like, the very base of my cutoff line, that is good enough to win against almost anybody. Because I feel like at that point you can get kind of like essential stats, essential skills. You won't get anything extra, but yeah, the essentials, that can still get you the win. Alright, and then finally, I was looking at a number of fronts and then like how well built they are, comparing Taurus to Gemini. And it's pretty close, although fewer fronts this time with groundwork compared to Taurus. And it's funny, based on what I've heard from graded players, they're very, very heavy on fronts and ends, and so paces are sort of like kind of shoved out of the meta. But in Open, there is not that kind of a thing. Another person from the Discord is tracking like running styles for their opponents, and it's like 25% fronts, maybe 30% pace, 40% late surgers, and then like under 5% ends. So yeah, the Open meta is very different from the graded meta. If you're using meta in the sense that like you are looking at what people are actually using, like what is the actual environment of that league. So yeah, for that reason, because there are much fewer fronts in Open League, paces are much more viable. And so my team, which had 2 paces on it, did just fine in rounds 1 and 2. But yeah, those are the findings for Gemini Cup. I'm enjoying tracking these stats, and initially I was going to stop after tracking Cancer, but I might keep going because it is interesting. We'll see how Cancer pans out. And then I'll put a special focus on Christmas Ogiri for that one, since she should be pretty dominant there. Okay, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.